I gave all my power to these people. Why? I own my power. Grr.
Hi friends, I'm Jenica Hill and welcome to or welcome back to my channel, which is all about embracing and celebrating your full magical self. Because you, my friend, are what? You're magical. You are. If you're new here, please hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. I procrastinated so much making this video, so it's Monday morning, and I'll be posting this on Wednesday morning. So I decided to wear my Friday shirt, which is perhaps my favorite shirt that I own, and I have my favorite mug. I won't read it to you out loud. By the way, this mug is featured in a rap, my first ever rap, in a project that my friend Kadar just made called Troubleshooter. I'm gonna link to it because I want you all to watch, because I get to play a sort of rude Silicon Valley type rapper. Yeah, it's confusing, but you should just watch, you'll understand. I've got my coffee, favorite mug, favorite shirt. Whew, you know, I'm here to do this. Anyway, today's topic is for actors, but also really anyone, and it is how not to give your power away during auditions / interviews or any important meeting you have. I don't know, you could probably use this video for a lot of different situations. Oh, it's morning and my voice is a crackly. I should have done vocal warm-ups. This video was requested by a lovely subscriber, thank you, in the comments on a video I posted about success. I figured I would talk about it today because I went camping this weekend with my love, and we woke up in the middle of the night in our tent, and I started reminiscing about my time in Los Angeles, and I was also reading Slouching Towards Bethlehem by Joan Didion. I'm going to read some passages from it today. And this topic came up for me because really when it comes to not giving your power away in important situations, you are relying on your self-respect and your self-love and your self-worth at the end of the day. Although I'm going to give you some tactics that have worked for me, they may or may not work for you. Again, these videos are always coming from my experience, so take everything with a grain of salt. But it came up for me, so I was like,
Yeah, this is the topic for the week.
whatever's moving around in the universe feels like what we need to talk about. Because somebody, somewhere, is also feeling how I was feeling this weekend and remembering perhaps a time in their lives when they were not so loving with themselves. So I will talk about that today, and I'm also going to give you 6 basic sort of tactics that I enjoy when it comes to not giving my power away, in auditions especially, but also just any situation where someone has, I guess, authority or the power to change my life somehow or make a decision that affects me. Anyway, let's get into it. The very first tactic for me that matters the most when not giving my power away during auditions or interviews is to know your values and your worth. This one is the first and most important tactic that I use, but it is also the hardest and the tactic that has taken me the longest to develop. So I'm going to tell you a little story, and it harkens back to my camping trip this weekend. And I'm going to read some Joan Didion to you. Hold, please. She has a chapter in this book, Slouching Towards Bethlehem, called On Self-Respect. She says, self-respect is a discipline, a habit of mind that can never be faked, but can be developed, trained, coaxed forth. When I lived in Los Angeles, almost 7 years ago now, I had just graduated college. I was facing Hollywood, the industry that I felt like I could never break into because nobody in my family was in the industry and I didn't know what I was doing. You know, college was great for learning how to act and how to be an artist, but at that time, taking a professional prep class was an elective for me, and I didn't have room in my schedule to do it. So I didn't really know what I was doing. Luckily, my gorgeous best friend and roommate was very helpful in helping me look for agents and things like that. But I basically was facing this void of life. And if you are someone who has either just graduated college or is about to, I think that this is a totally normal feeling that you don't know what's going to happen for the rest of your life, and it's terrifying. And I felt very powerless and a little worthless, you know? I was facing an acting career, but I lived in LA, which, as you might know or expect, is very expensive. So I was applying for jobs at front desks of hair salons and things and not getting the job, and I got a job at the Gap doing retail, and I felt demoralized because I had just done 4 years of college and then I was going back to retail, which there's nothing wrong with retail, but for me it felt like a step back because I had done retail in high school and I was like not making a lot of money, and this time in my life was very hard. So I was reading this book while camping and I woke up in the middle of the night and I was talking to my partner about that time in LA. At the time, he and I were long distance, and so I was sad about that anyway. But also, I was just sad about my life. I was like,
what is my life going to look like?
and in LA, if you're an actor, you know, you hear these things like,
sneeze and you'll sneeze on an actor, cough and you'll cough on an actor, and they all end up as servers or whatever.
You hear all these stories, and then also as like a Caucasian white, why would I say Caucasian? I don't know. As a white female in my then very early 20s, I was a dime a dozen. I mean, I still kind of am in the eyes of the industry, but I know that I'm unique anyway. So I was going to casting director workshops and I was hearing like,
yeah, you're kind of leading lady, you're kind of quirky best friend, I don't know.
Nobody cared about me. That's how I felt. And honestly, I didn't really care about myself. I was so sad at this time in my life. I created a very hard shell around my heart at this time, which, if you're an actor, is not great because you have to have the ability to access your emotions when you're acting. So I am a very sensitive person. I'm a Cancer Pisces rising. Come on, people, you know? Just a sensitive little water sign over here. But I learned how to be very hardened because I was so sad. I remember when who's now my husband, would come to visit me, I would bawl when he left. And then I remember my mom came to visit me once and she was going with me to like auditions for indie stuff that, you know, I wasn't going to get paid for, and I'd like get a parking ticket while I was in the audition or whatever. She saw my life. It was so busy, and she was like,
I don't know how you're doing this.
But I wasn't like making much money at all, and I was miserable. And she left, and I just curled up in the fetal position in my bed and just cried. Because I felt so sad and so lost and so lonely, even though I had great friends and, you know, my roommates were so lovely. My best friend, I lived with her. I still love her to this day. We're still best friends. But it sort of doesn't matter if you're not in love with yourself. I don't know if in love is the right word, but if you don't respect yourself, it doesn't really matter how many friends you have, you know? So all that to say, I ended up moving to Atlanta to be with my now husband, spouse, whatever, partner. I never know. I always want to say partner, but I guess it's an important plot point that we got married. I moved to Atlanta to be closer to him and also to act in Atlanta because I had heard it was a great place to be. And for me, this was a really empowering move and sort of launched my journey into my own self-respect. I don't know how much of it was moving, how much of it was just age and time, but I do think making a decision that really empowered me sort of launched me into that journey of figuring out how to respect myself, because I really didn't before. I really didn't. My mind, I mean, you can go back and watch my morning anxiety video. I still sometimes have this problem, but my mind would just be beating myself up. And I was like,
I would never say these things to a friend, so why am I saying them to myself?
okay, I'm gonna stop telling you my sob story. The whole point is that if you are in a place right now where you're like,
I literally can't imagine respecting myself.
oh, ugh, that makes me sad. But if you're in this place where you're like, Jenica, I see that you respect yourself now, but how am I supposed to do that? Or all these XYZ things in my life aren't working out, so how am I supposed to respect myself? Okay. I'm not a famous actor. I still get rejected constantly. I still face moments where I question, but self-respect has nothing to do with what's going on in your life, and it is a discipline. It is something that you have to cultivate, and that's what I've realized from my own experience, because it took me years to cultivate self-respect. And maybe some people have had it their whole lives, or they've cultivated it from habits they, started doing when they were younger. It took me a while to learn what worked for me, because even when I was doing personal development in LA, I didn't believe any of it. I was like,
I'm amazing. No, I'm not.
I want to read this other quote from Joan Didion because, like I said, your self-respect has nothing to do with the outside world, okay? So she says, the dismal fact is that self-respect has nothing to do with the approval of others, who are, after all, deceived easily enough, has nothing to do with reputation, which, as Rhett Butler told Scarlett O'Hara, is something people with courage can do without. So self-respect has nothing to do with your reputation or how other people see you. It has to do with how you see yourself. Now, how do you cultivate this? I've talked about it in other videos. For me, journaling has helped a lot. Sometimes affirmations. I'll link to my affirmations video. Finding friends that support you, who inspire you and don't bring you down. Having hobbies that really help you feel empowered and good about yourself. These are all things that you can start doing and cultivate. You can also listen to some Abraham Hicks. I feel like Abraham Hicks is great. Not everybody loves Abraham Hicks, but I do. There are so many tools that you can go to start developing that self-respect. And it really is a practice, and it really does take years sometimes. So please don't beat yourself up if you feel like you're having a hard time with it. If you're not having a hard time with it, then great. That was a really long tip, and I promise not all of these bullet points will be, they're not bullet points. I promise not all of these tactics will take this long to describe, but that one I feel like is just, it's a monster. It's a difficult one to tackle. At least for me it was. But if you know your values and you know your worth, you can go into that audition, go into that interview feeling like,
I know myself. I know what I care about. I know that I'm worthy whether or not this person picks me or says yes to me or even likes me.
and that is a really empowering feeling. If you have that going on in your mind, nothing this person says or does can bring you down. You can practice this by writing out your values, what you care about, what you love about yourself before you go into any sort of high-stakes situation. So you can write out, like, this is what's important to me, this is what I love about myself. Maybe write out all the traits that you think are great about yourself. Write out how you want to live your life, and that will just be with you when you go into the room, whether you're auditioning or interviewing or whatever it is. Okay. Second tactic, and this is especially for actors, but also anyone interviewing, prepare. So I'm not going to teach you how to act in this video because that's not what this is about, but as you know, if you're an actor or someone who's interviewing for jobs, you need to be prepared. And preparation will make you feel so strong and awesome. That preparation will be with you, and you won't have any questions in your mind about, what you're doing or if you're doing the right thing, because you'll know that you've prepared and you have your take on this character, or you have your resume all built out. You know exactly why you're right for this job. You're there to have fun and show these folks what you can do. How you prepare is your business. If you're an actor and you don't know how to prepare, I'm sure there are so many videos on YouTube about that. We're not going to go into like acting techniques or anything. That was a very short one. Tactic number 3. Take up physical space and try some power poses. So I have to attribute this to my acting teacher. at AMAW Atlanta. That's Anthony Mindel Actors Workshop. Highly recommend. She told our class about Amy Cuddy, who has a TED Talk about presence, and she wrote a book called Presence, and it's all about your physical stature and the way you carry yourself and your body language that dictates how you feel and how you show up in the world. So she talks about, for example, like superwoman / man poses, that actually if you do this, scientifically it makes you feel confident. So I have literally gone into audition rooms, waiting rooms, and done this pose, stood there like this. Instead of running lines or freaking out or whatever, I've stood like this. Or sometimes, because if you're a woman and or female identifying and you've been taught that you should take up less space in the world, which is a whole other topic, it can feel really awkward to take up physical space. So sometimes I'll go into a waiting room before an audition and I'll kind of sit like with my legs open. Some people call it man spreading, but I think ladies can spread as well. Instead of like, crossing my knees, I'll kind of sit wide and just like take up space and know that I belong in this room. And there's something that it does to your brain. And you can do that in an interview too, although I wouldn't sit too spready and freak people out, but any way that you can feel like you're taking up physical space, whether it's like puffing your chest up or keeping your chin up and taking deep breaths and just existing there instead of apologizing for your existence, Sometimes you go in a waiting room if you're an actor and you're like looking at all the people and you're like,
oh, they all look like me and they're probably better for the part. Blah.
Then you're just sitting there and you're like,
I want to disappear into nothingness.
And that's not going to make you feel confident, So puff up that beautiful, beautiful chest. That was weird. Take a pose. They work for me, so give it a shot and see if it helps you. I don't know. It just might. And they're kind of fun. And you have this little secret because you're like,
I'm sitting here doing a power pose and you don't even know what I'm doing.
And maybe someone's looking at you like, what? Why are they standing like that? And you are taking up your space, and it doesn't matter if they think you're weird. Tactic number 4, take any notes or constructive criticism as an opportunity to collaborate, especially for actors, and you might have heard this before. If somebody gives you a note, if a casting director gives you a note, like, try that again, but this way, instead of immediately apologizing for your own choices and being like,
oh, I must have done it wrong,
think of it as an exciting opportunity to collaborate with the casting director or director, whoever's in the room, and think,
oh cool, I get to try it this other way.
And just shifting that in your mind can make a huge difference and not give away your power. Because I know for me, there have been times that I've been in auditions, especially there was this one commercial callback where there was like a whole ad agency or whatever watching me, and I think they were just having fun with actors and giving us tons of ideas, and they gave me this note that I thought was super strange. And in my head, I went,
oh, they're sabotaging me because this note makes no sense.
But that gave my power to them. I thought that, and then my power went all to them, and I was very bashful about the note, and I felt like I was being chastised or something, and I did it, but I didn't really have fun doing it, and I was like bitter about it, and it just wasn't helpful. And it doesn't matter whether I got the job or not. The point is I felt like crap right after the audition because I was like,
I gave all my power to these people. Why? I own my power.
Even in an interview situation, if somebody's like, I don't understand this aspect of your resume, instead of seeing that as like,
oh no, they hate me,
you can take that as an opportunity to explain to them something from your resume and give them even more examples of how awesome you are. Tactic number 5, don't take things personally. And this goes with tactic number 6, remember that gatekeepers are just people. This is why you don't need to take things personally, because everybody that you meet, whether they are important to your job or your career as an actor or not, is just a person. And they woke up that day feeling some type of way, whether it was good or not so great, and they have things that they're thinking about. They might be hungry, thirsty, have to go to the bathroom. They might be like sickened by your perfume smell, which I know most actors get told don't wear perfumes in audition rooms. But whatever it is, they're just human beings. They're trying to do their job. If they're interviewing you, they really want to find somebody that's right for the job, and same for casting directors. So if they say something that isn't so kind, try so hard not to take it personally. And I say this as a note to myself, because once I was in an audition and the casting director looked at my resume, saw some short film I did in LA, and the title of it's kind of funny, and the casting director joked about it and was like,
I don't even want to know about this.
or something. And I just crumbled inside. And instead of like joking back or just like letting it slide, I let it completely affect me, and then I was totally in my head when I did the scene, and it was a terrible audition, and I went home and cried. It was awful because I got in my head about this comment that the casting director made, and who knows why the person made that comment. Like, to me, it came off sort of mean-spirited. And whether it was or not, maybe this person was having a terrible day. Maybe this person has their own self-esteem issues and they take it out on you. Like, let's be real. Casting directors are not perfect. They might not have self-respect sometimes, and they might get a kick out of making you feel small because it makes them feel big. Who knows? I'm not saying this is true of all casting directors by any means. Casting directors are usually very lovely people, but, you know, sometimes people who are interviewing you for a job are dealing with their own shiz, you know? It's so helpful just to remember that, and when you leave the room, be like,
That was uncomfortable, and I feel bad that that person must be having a rough day or must not know how to treat people with respect. That's too bad for them. Good thing I know my value and worth, and I'm not going to let that get to me, you know?
So those are all my tactics that I use to not give my power away during auditions. Obviously, so much of it has to do with the preparation piece and acting and, having substance to provide. Now, I want to give a little caveat quickly before we end, which is none of this, knowing your worth and value, is about treating anybody else like they're not as good as you, or, being flippant towards people or rude. It's about this inner knowing. And you don't have to say it out loud. You don't have to be like, you don't tell me how to be. You're just a person having a bad day. It's more this inner knowing, and that way, no matter what happens during your interview or audition, it doesn't matter, and it's not going to affect you. And remember that your worth does not depend on outside circumstances. So whether you get the job or not, you are still worthy, you are still valuable, and you are still a kick-ass individual. And you're magical. I'll end with this quote from Joan Didion. To have that sense of one's intrinsic worth, which constitutes self-respect, is potentially to have everything. The ability to discriminate, to love, and to remain indifferent. To lack it is to be locked within oneself, paradoxically incapable of either love or indifference. Think on that. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down. Please comment below if any of this resonates with you, or if you have tips that really work for you to not give your power away when you're in high-stakes situations. If you're an actor, I'd love to hear from you. Hey, fellow actors. Thank you so much for watching and for subscribing. Please subscribe if you haven't already. As always, 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 please go out and be your full magical self today, because the world needs you just as you are. See you next week.